All right, check the mic. We're live. Instant reaction to the Detroit Lions moving to 2-1 with a 38-30 win over the Baltimore Ravens. This game was as advertised, Sam. Back and forth. We had lead changes. We had drama. We had a lot of points. Pretty fun Monday Night Football game, but the Lions, an aggressive 4th-and-2 call to go up, to convert, to essentially seal the game, and then just tacked on another touchdown to really seal it. Dan Campbell does it again with the aggressive call at his own 49, 4th-and-2 with the game on the line.
Yeah, like the perfect Dan Campbell test, Like, okay, yeah, obviously you love going for it and 4th down all the time, but here's a real scenario for you. A couple minutes left. We just hit the 2-minute warning. Baltimore still has all their timeouts, so it doesn't end the game, but it does really make it difficult for them. You pick up the 1st down, 4th-and-2 from midfield. They get it. They go run hard play action fake over the top to Amon-Ra St. Brown. Beautiful pass through some holding penalty as well. And yeah, then the next play really sealed it. The touchdown, I think, really, theoretically it was still there for Baltimore, but that made it really, really difficult. So Dan Campbell remains an absolute maniac, and everybody loves it.
In a great way, and I hope all of our Shouty Show friends are giving him proper credit tomorrow morning. We know what it would be if it didn't work. If it didn't work, and then the Ravens march down with it for a game-tying touchdown, we know what everybody would be talking about tomorrow morning, 7 a.m., 8 a.m., whenever you go live. We know they'd be saying, Dan Campbell, you're blowing it. You're 1-2. It's all your fault. So give him proper credit for the aggressive play. And by the way, Jared Goff, I thought he played really well overall, but 2 absolute dimes to Amon-Ra St. Brown, the one that on 4th-and-2 touchdown earlier in the game as well. But we're now 3 weeks into the season. You want to hear a wild stat? Sure. Most points allowed in the NFL. Miami Dolphins, 97. Baltimore Ravens, 97. And they have 1 game against the Browns. And so now in their 2 losses, we have almost 38 points allowed, 41 points allowed, and a key Derrick Henry fumble in the 4th quarter. That was the other big turning point in this game. It was a 4-point game. Ravens were driving to try to go, take the lead. Derrick Henry fumble with Aiden Hutchinson forcing it.
I think they've given up a ton on defense as well. Like not just points, but yards. All the defensive metrics are pretty ugly for them as well. So yeah, for an area, this was supposed to be the best team in the NFL, the best roster top to bottom, no holes, weaknesses anywhere. Their defense is struggling. This was weird because like early in the game, both teams were scoring, but like first drive or two, Detroit's offensive line was kind of getting beat up by Baltimore's defensive line. There was guys in the backfield every play. The run game was going nowhere. And then they got themselves completely figured out on that 98-yard drive where they just, for some reason, it just clicked. The interior they just started dominating. They absolutely crushed the Ravens on the ground. And from that point on, it wasn't a problem anymore. They were able to move the ball. Everything was kind of working. Jared Goff made some fantastic passes. Baltimore got a stomp every now and again, but it felt like this was going to be a completely different game at the start than it ended up being.
There was almost a point. So the Lions go 20 plays, 98 yards, over 10 minutes holding the ball. The Ravens got the ball back. There was a point where if the Ravens held the ball a little bit longer at the at the end of the first half, it would have been 3 possessions apiece in the first half. We almost had that, but they did trade possessions late there. But this was one of those games where the Lions stuck with the run game, and it did work for them. I also love the fact that since Jahmyr Gibbs, now he's taken over more of the number 1 running back role. You have David Montgomery, who's not supposed to be the explosive speed back, just rattling off long runs, including a 72-yarder. He goes 12 carries for 151 with the 2 touchdowns. 2 touchdowns apiece for David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. Goff played a really good game. It was a little of everything from the Lions for the 2nd straight week where the run game got going. They had the trick plays in there as well. They had a throwback to Goff that they converted. And, of course, the other touchdown, handing it off to Amon-Ra St. Brown on 4th down where he pitched it out to Jahmyr Gibbs for one of the touchdowns. 2nd straight week, we have vintage Lions, and this time doing it on the road against what I still believe is a good Ravens team.
Yeah, the trick plays are still there. Once the offensive line got itself in shape, everything was back to being the vintage Lions. And that 4th down aggression, the creativity, that's all still there. This was a really impressive game by the Lions. We also saw, Aiden Hutchinson looking more like his old self again. like made some really key plays. There was one play where for some reason the Ravens were trying to block him with a tight end and a running back, which just seems, I mean, okay, you're going like max protect with 2 extra bodies in there. Put the 2 extra bodies somewhere else. Don't put them on Aiden Hutchinson. Like, block Aiden Hutchinson with real offensive linemen. So that went about as well as you'd expect. But the forced fumble on Derrick Henry was huge. He got a sack, to start. The Ravens, or the Lions got a score. The Ravens got the ball back with like 6 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. The very first play of that drive, which is a pretty big drive, was a sack. Aiden Hutchinson getting hold of Lamar Jackson and putting them in a hole in that drive. So he made a bunch of big plays in this game.
We didn't even mention the 7 sacks from the Lions. They did a great job. It wasn't, there's multiple ways to describe a pass rush. It wasn't so much that they're just dominating, one-on-one blocks and then finishing. It was bottling up Lamar Jackson, tracking him down. Khalid Muhammad with 2 sacks, both hustle plays, just playing the bootleg the right way. That's how they got the 7 sacks. They did a really nice job of bottling him up, not letting him escape. I thought Lamar, I don't know if he looked hurt or if he just didn't look as dynamic. He looked a little hesitant. The Ravens offense has these strange lulls. I don't know if it's starting to make more sense here, Sam. Like they were cycling back and forth, Baltimore, between there's wide open players in the secondary. I mean, wide open. Like when Lamar's throwing the ball, most of the time there's no one in the area code. And then other times he's holding the ball, waiting for something to develop, and then taking a sack. It was very boom or bust from a Baltimore perspective, but I thought Detroit did a really good job of containing him from a scramble standpoint and lane discipline and just keeping him in the pocket when they did have good coverage downfield.
Yeah, they did. And late in the game, he started to press and started to, I think, make some bad decisions with the ball in his hands. Not so much in terms of like, forced throw interceptions, but like when he was trying to move around back there and what he was trying to do when he was doing that. And, Peyton Manning on the Manning cast was talking about sometimes you get frustrated and you start forcing it. And where that would manifest in Peyton with an interception, right? Like with a bad decision with the football through the air. I think that manifests in Lamar Jackson by trying to do too much behind the line of scrimmage, right? Just try and buy endless time. Like there was one sack, it was the sack he took, or where he was running back a mile. It's like at some point you got to move forwards or
with
laterally,
5 Lions
backwards
all over him. Yeah.
And the Lions sent like the house at him and there's just nowhere to go. Like you've got to understand when the play is not there to be made sometimes.
I want to check the tape on it, but it did feel like everything that Baltimore's running is down the field, and they're waiting for long developing routes. And when they're open, It's like, hey, Mark Andrews the last touchdown, no one's near Mark Andrews multiple times. No one's near Nuke Hopkins or Zay Flowers. That's been the story of the season, I think, for Baltimore, but there's not a whole lot of underneath completions or just quick, easy completions. It's really boom or bust. I mean, Lamar averaged 10.7 yards per attempt again today, because when he's throwing the ball down the field, it's open, but he also lost 55 yards on the 7 sacks. So yeah, that's the inconsistency of Baltimore's offense. And, again, I think partly what Detroit was doing to him and able to, keep him in the pocket.
I mean, his stat line is going to look crazy. He was like 21 of 27 for almost 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. Like his passer rating is going to be 150 or whatever it is. He had a bit on the ground as well, rushing. Yeah, the sacks are hidden negative plays in there. But this is like, sometimes the stats don't give you everything in the game.
Right. Well, I mean, especially for quarterback play, I thought he had to get rid of the ball better than he did. So impressive job by Detroit. Impressive what their offensive line settled in and did. They pass protected extremely well, I would say. And then, getting, settling down, I'd say after, I thought they were, I think you're right. They were getting beat up. There was a point where Gibbs had, like 1 yard per carry, 10 carries into the game, but they chipped away. Detroit chipped away, stuck with Gibbs, got Montgomery involved, and created some explosives in the run game.
Yeah, I mean, look, if that offensive line, if that's how it's going to play this season, the Lions are like, they're back, they're a contender, they're everything they were last season. It is worth saying, look, Madubuike wasn't playing like Baltimore's best interior pass rusher, wasn't on the field in this game at all. So, I think they did a really good job, particularly given the way that first drive or two went, and they really pulled themselves together when it looked like it could get ugly. But I think it's still a little bit, let's see how this line goes over the course of the year. They're going to face, I think, better interiors than the Ravens minus their best interior pass rusher.
Interesting next week for both teams. The Lions play the Browns, a team that's allowing just 204 yards per game. So you get that battle in the Dome in Detroit. Cleveland's defense, which is playing really well, going up against the Lions, trying to slow down this offense, which has been cooking the last 2 weeks. And then the Baltimore Ravens travel to Kansas City to face the Chiefs. The 1-2 Ravens and the 1-2 Chiefs. One of those teams is going to be 1-3 after next week, or 1-2-1. Either way, it's going to be surprising. Chiefs, Ravens, that's the game of the week next week. And still, look, it's early enough in the season. Both of these teams, I'm going to predict Ravens and Chiefs make the playoffs this year. That's my prediction. I think they bounce back as long as everybody stays healthy. But what a pivotal game in week 4 already for the Ravens Chiefs.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Ravens still played well in this game. Like Detroit played really, really well, and they looked fantastic, and they made the plays late in the game. They stayed aggressive, and they took this game from Baltimore. And, this is a team that was a contender a year ago, has been a contender for a couple of years. And if the offensive line has kind of fixed itself now, they should be a contender again. I think that's slightly different to the Chiefs, who have genuinely not looked good yet this season. Even in their win against the New York Giants, who themselves are a pretty bad football team. The Ravens, I would think they should go into that game as favorites, even though they're both sitting there with the same record. And I think they would deservedly be favorites based off how both teams have played so far this year.
Gregory Turner in the chat. We did talk about the 7 sacks there, but it wasn't the O-line giving up the sacks. It was Lamar Jackson holding the ball and the Lions doing a great job of bottling him up. It's not always on the O-line. It's often on the quarterback. And I would say this was a combination of Lamar Jackson and then the Lions, taking his escape routes.
Yeah, that will be an interesting one to see how many of those sacks PFF charges directly to Lamar Jackson, because he was definitely a huge contributing factor to them.
And look, another just feisty defensive performance by the Lions. Muhammad had officially 2.5 sacks, 3 tackles of Lamar Jackson for the sacks. Jack Campbell got in there. Derek Barnes. Barnes was, he's a hybrid edge linebacker type who's more linebacker now in today's NFL. But I thought they had a really good plan where they were aggressive. They took their shots coming at Lamar and making him make those downfield throws. And again, some of them were wide open. Other times they covered it up and they created those negative plays. And I think that and the forced fumble, the Aiden Hutchinson forced fumble, those were the differences in the game.
And that's a couple of huge fumbles for Derrick Henry this season. I mean, Henry was phenomenal last year, had incredible production, but the fumbles have killed him this year.
What do you make of week 1? We to keep going here, Sam. We got Lions fans are here. They're excited. They paid the bills. We got a record live crowd for a night game here. The Lions fans are excited. What do we do with the week 1 game with the Packers? Because the Lions are now tied for first at 2-1. We got a 3-way tie at the top now with the Vikings, Packers, and Lions in the NFC North.
Yeah, I mean, I think on the one hand, it may be one of those things where like 3 games in, you're in danger of overrating any individual game. On the other hand, the Packers have the kind of defensive front that can cause problems for an offensive line that might not be as good as it's been previously. And they did. They really wrecked that Detroit offensive line in week 1. But also, week 1 with new personnel and a new coach running things, it's going to be the most sort of rusty or, incoherent that group is going to be. You would assume they get better over the course of the year and maybe iron out things. So, the next time they play Green Bay, even if it's the same matchup personnel wise, they presumably will do better against the Packers.
Thanksgiving is the rematch. Packers Lions. Thanksgiving 12:30 Eastern, I would assume. It's when the Lions play. Can't wait for it. Shout out to, we got a new member here joined in too. Trayton. Shout out to Trayton. Join a new member. We had some questions about the new membership. There is a join button down there, different from subscribing. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's completely free. You get all the good stuff. You get this. It's all free. But also join if you'd like the extra perks, the extra stuff, including this Thursday for all members. We have a live watch along. So the next primetime game Thursday night, Seahawks Cardinals, will be live from the studio, sitting on the couch watching the game with you. We got our next watch along for all of our members. So hit that join button if you want to join us. Thursday, we'll have a live reaction after that, of course, as well.
for a good game.
Anything else, Sam, or any comments you want to respond to here?
Let's see. What do we got?
How concerned are you with Baltimore, and particularly the defense? I know the points are up there, but short field on this next one, but they're giving it up way more than they have these last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not concerned by them, but they will definitely be pretty disappointed by that defensive display in particular. And so far this season, their defense has not been particularly good. They've been attacked, and they've been, like I said, they've given up a ton of yards in addition to the points, etc. I mean, they couldn't stop Detroit running for anything outside that first drive or so. They didn't get much pressure on Jared Goff either. Like, the pass rush that Baltimore should be able to deploy was fairly irrelevant, really didn't make much of a factor. Kyle Hamilton, the safeties that they've got weren't able to make plays. Yeah, that's not good. But I think generally you've got to give a ton of credit to the Lions, who looked like, last year's or the year before's Lions. It looked like, Ben Johnson had never left. Everything was still intact. Like, this is one of the best teams in the NFL when they're playing like this. I think you have to give them the credit and say, yeah, the Ravens defense needs to get itself together. And, a guy like Madubuike coming back is a big part of that. But yeah, it's been a weakness so far through 3 weeks.
And then, since you were the only one on the instant reaction for Nick Bosa, I did get a question about that. My thoughts on the Nick Bosa injury. Obviously, devastating for the Niners, even though I've been impressed with what they've done, what Robert Saleh's done, what Bryce Huff has done. I think the rookies, Alfred Collins, CJ West, maybe give them some time. They can make more of an impact. We've seen a little bit from Michael Williams and Jordan Elliott. They've got some bodies there, but no one can replace Nick Bosa. I saw some theories on trades. You talked through some trade opportunities, right? I don't know if a guy off the top of my head, like an Arden Key from the Tennessee Titans, like, that's not going to replace Nick Bosa, but I think he's in his contract year. Like, you might be able to get a solid pass rush type, but having that, top 4, top 5 type of edge rusher and losing that, obviously a big blow for the Niners. But yeah, I'd keep an eye on some potential trade candidates. A guy like Key is, anybody on the Titans feels like a, fire sale waiting to happen over there. So that could, as the Niners keep winning, if they keep winning, I think that could be the play there.
Yeah, the Dolphins were my team for similar reasons, right? If Miami gets another couple of losses, they're going to be getting rid of anybody that somebody's willing to take with a phone call. So, Jalen Phillips was the name that jumped to mind there, but you could call about basically their entire defensive line at that point.
Nick Bosa hurt. That's not as common as the Joey Bosa getting hurt.
Although kind of common now.
What's that? 2 ACLs for him?
He's battled.
He's battled a bunch of stuff.
I think it's his 3rd ACL in total.
Yeah, Bosa's. Oh, because he had one in college.
Yeah.
Oh, he missed most of his last year in college, I believe. So yeah, Joey's healthy and Nick isn't as of right now. Anyway, all right, that's it for us tonight. Appreciate everybody for being here. We got our Wednesday update, 9 a.m. Thursday preview, and then Thursday.